Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt once again from Divination Counseling Service. Today I want to do something a bit different. We're going to study a chart after the fact. So we're going to look at the breach at the Capitol, which occurred January 6th, 2021 at 1:10 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to compare the events of the day, what we know, to the chart itself, because it's really exciting. It's like seeing astrology in action. You know, we do a lot of predicting, but one of the ways in which we learn a lot about astrology is through studying our own charts, because we can make those comparisons. We know what it feels like to be us. Or through studying events. We're going to study an event. So, without further ado, I would like to thank my supporters, whether it be the newsletter, the website, or in particular this YouTube channel. Thank you all for helping me to grow this venue. And thank you for the likes and the shares. And please keep liking and sharing. Apparently that's a good thing for YouTube. And this is my dream. This is my dream. I'm very fortunate to be able to do this. And I'm fortunate because of you. So thank you all very much. And if you're somebody who's not subscribed, please subscribe. Anyway, with that said, let's get to the chart itself. So here we go. Okay, so we are looking at the chart now. And in that chart, we're looking at it, no, because whenever I push buttons, this program changes. Now we're looking at the chart. Apologize. This is the chart that I'm referring to. I knew immediately. That one wasn't. And I did put the trans-Neptunians in and the everything in there actually to start with, because some really valuable points can be made from those trans-Neptunians, number one. Number two, I wanted to try to consolidate this work a little bit so that our time is not so much. Now, what we're looking at here is not, we're going to get to this ninth house. By the way, this is politics. Let's state the obvious right away. Okay, so we're looking at politics. That's what this is. But what I really want to start with is down here. And I want to, 2955. It's funny. That's like almost like just on the crust of going into the sign of Taurus. And that, even though it's 5 minutes not there, it now is a stronger conjunction to Uranus. And they both square Saturn. And that is outbursts. That is, let's just put it this way, that's eventful. And so it is telling us that, and it's coming in secret. It's like unknown, it's in secret, although I don't know how many of us were really surprised. However, surprised about a lot of other things that went with that, I think, more so than the fact that it happened at all. But no matter, you're looking at a lot of hidden factors, which we're going to get back into. So this 12th house, it plays a big factor in what's going on, okay? The fact is that you're going to look over here at Zeus and the moon. And Zeus and the moon is, think of us as the moon, the people, we the people. And this Zeus is, sometimes it's restraint, but it's this excitement, okay? I'm not going to say excitement's good or bad. It's excitement, okay? The way it's aspected can denote good or bad. Now check this out. So here we have Mars still in that opposition. So it hasn't left this opposition good yet. And now it's involved in all of these conversations, these squares. This is difficult. That's a T-square. So just for people that study astrology, that's a T-square. The moon is opposite Mars, so we know that these are angry people. So their excitement, Zeus, is not always going to be the best. Okay? So that's true. I also want to point out, which I did an earlier video and I didn't actually do this, but the ascendant is Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, okay? And one of the saving graces of the whole scenario, but also the reason why it's going to get called out that these people had different treatment than, say, the Black Lives Matter, could be because of this Venus in trine with the Mars, in trine, so you got basically a grand trine here, with, oh no, that's not a trine, that's a sextile, but needless to say, a positive aspect. So you're looking at this blue, okay, in my chart, and it's in aspect to this Venus and the moon, which of course is in very close aspect to Zeus. So though they don't really show the lines to the trans-Neptunians, we know there would be one there. The squares and the Jupiter, okay, show the difficulty, show the confrontation. It even kind of, I mean, Jupiter's the natural Pluto of the natural leader of the 9th house, which is where Pluto resides, and it talks about government, politics, really. Government would be more on this side because it is a Jupiter, Saturn. There is a change, Saturn leaving Jupiter, a new, so there it is, just, and that's just in planets. I'm not even talking asteroids at this point. I'm just giving you a brief summation of this chart. Now, rhetoric, Mercury, plays a huge, huge role in what's going on, okay? It's going to play a bigger role when we get to the asteroids. I'll get back there again. But because it is on the midheaven, Pluto and Mercury in and of themselves are talking about intense in language. But they're an aspect, because of the angles, here we go, see those angles, they mean everything, to pressure. So it's Mercury, pressure, communication to pressure, And it's fed in by propaganda. I can't think of, honestly, a better way to sum up what it says. And the interesting thing is that Zeus and Moon are in Aries point axis, okay? So let me get my pen out here. So okay, so I want to show you this in grouping. So again, I'm going to be jumping around a little between the Aries point and then the dynamics of this chart. This is in the Aries point, okay? It's interesting, but, okay, this is not far out of the Aries point. It's out, but not far. The sun, a bit further the other way. So I'm just going to use Pluto. I think that's enough. Over, you know, when you get to the rest of what we're going to be talking about, we're going to look at them mostly through the dial. But when you're looking at the Aries point, you're looking, first of all, the world is seeing what's going on. I think let's talk about that. I mean, that's going to happen. The world looked at these angry people, this excited populace. And by the way, Zeus, right here, also stands for things like explosives, guns, the fact that somebody got shot, the fact that the person shot was a woman. Zeus, Moon, Zeus, okay? So again, could we have predicted that? Yeah, we probably could have, because that's what this chart looked like. And I will be honest, other astrologers have predicted it to be a very difficult day. Okay? Now, the pressure and these points, which are incredibly important to the event, okay, are in aspect with that Pluto via the Aries point, okay? So bearing with me. So as we see this Aries, this is the Aries point. They are actually in effect because of the axis of the chart. So I try to be too careful and then I screw up. So it's the axis of the chart. When we're looking at the axis of the chart, Pluto's still in the Aries axis. It doesn't really change that. But it does kind of accentuate now the fact that there was some kind of pressure, even if it's retrograde, it was there. And the media, propaganda, the fact that the media has been with us the whole time is partially going to be making us angry. But all of this is going to bring about transformation. Notice I didn't say just change, because over here, this is the unpredictable crowd. These are the people that are out of control. I mean, I think when they really got out of control was probably when this got later and later and later, and it maybe even got to Admetus, which is when it stopped. But imagine, okay, this Uranus and Mars are the most unpredictable, irrational sometimes. Although Uranus is very smart, it's also something that gets very wired, like for sound. Like, you know that saying, wired for sound. There's a nervous tension here with the Uranus. And you apply that to Pluto. Then take Mercury for rhetoric. This is forceful language. Okay, that's just right there. And it's causing a difficulty that can be worked with, and that will lead to healing. So it's almost as though I want to say to you, don't worry, because what all this will ultimately lead to is more stability. Now, I would be in Disney World if I didn't tell you there was more to come. I would be in Disney World if I didn't tell you that in the next couple of days I'm going to do the inauguration chart, precisely because Uranus and Mars are still at the ascendant. So bear this in mind, that this is all part of something that we're going through that's destiny. I think I talked about destiny in the last chart, okay? The other thing I want to talk about before I quickly go to the other chart, because I don't want these to get to be too long, is this Pluto. Pluto right now is 2422, and it is headed direct. It will soon hit the see if I can do this, 7 degrees. When it hits 27 degrees, and we're feeling some of it now because it's Pluto and it's strong energy and it moves rather slowly. And you really feel these things coming in much more so than when they're headed out. So it's coming in and we're feeling the Pluto, the transformation, the fact that we have to look at ourselves as Americans. Now, if you're listening from another country, and they are listening, other countries, because they know the importance of what we're going through, even if they don't know astrology. There is an undercurrent within our country that's been there a very, very long time. And it's like a pimple coming to a head. It's volcanoes. It's the pressure that is starting to expand and explode. And it's doing so in our future, our social status, how we want the world to see us, I'll go on and so forth. But it's also about our government, most particularly. And we have to ask ourselves, and we will, because we have a second house Pluto as a country, what do we value in life? And much of the testing that's going to be going on, because it'll feel like that, will be related to what is the soul of this country. The good news is I believe that the Jupiter tells us it will take hard work but that it will happen. And by the way, Jupiter is the natural ruler of the ninth house itself. Okay, now we're talking different planets. I'm sorry, different signs. But Jupiter is the planet of politics because it's our ideologies, our belief systems. And the cool thing is that in Aquarius, and we have a chance to look at that right now with all that's going on, it is more humanitarian and more equitable. So now let's move on, and because again, I don't want to get too long-winded. So we're here and we have a lot more. And I realized recently that I actually have more asteroids on the old computer, but nonetheless, I'm prepared. I have a list. So we're going to throw in asteroids as we go, but I wanted to point out some of the obvious. You know, we talked about how the Uranus and the Mars here are in the 12th house. That's what we were looking at that. And let me get that. So this was something that I had already talked about. It was the very first thing I did mention. I should keep my notes here to make sure I hit it all. And I pointed out how these things square. Look at this mess. And we're going to talk about a lot of this. They square these points on the midheaven. Okay, it's hard to tell. There's a lot up here, but this is the midheaven. So on the Janus chart, it was a little easier to see. Okay, so as we look at what's here, and there's a lot here, there's a concept. Right here is the idea of rejection and selection. Okay, so that's an asteroid right there. There's Lilith. Okay, come down here, and that's the midheaven. And here we have 1 degree. So it is an opposition, out of sign, but nonetheless. And this is retrograde. So what kind of pressure is being applied through communication? That's pressure. On some level, there's pressure being applied, whether people are aware of it or not. We're talking a retrograde, but indeed, something is seething. Okay. Up here with Pluto, right here, okay, I'm going to kind of draw a little line, literally up here, is an asteroid, okay, and it looks like this. It's the combination of Neptune and Chiron. And this asteroid tells you that you don't know what's going on, that there is some sort of turning point that's lacking in clarity, that there's a lack of clarity. Surely there's a lack of clarity regarding those people, their anger, okay? They truly believe, and I believe the media, I believe that these people truly believe that something was wrong with this election. We know there wasn't. But through pressure, through Volcanus, and it's interesting because Proserpina is the asteroid that's with Volcanus. Is the pressure, and they're both retro, is the pressure related to the fact that somebody's going on their own, or has to go it on their own, or has to continue on their journey? Okay, I'm just leaving these thoughts with you. This is so spot on, this chart. It is amazing. Okay, we can actually determine a lot of things from this chart, like this, and I'll get to the dial where we'll see even more. This does tell me things are hidden. There were things hidden, okay? The idea of even Circe being there is, you know, there's help here, okay? That is squaring this. You see that? Of course you do. I'm showing you. So it's amazing, amazing that this is happening, okay? So and again, are we going to find this out? Yeah. Because Poseidon is not just propaganda. It is the media, it is enlightenment, it is education, it is that bright moment that can happen also. So again, it depends on how it's being played with. Okay? And when we talk about that conversation, remember that it's in the same house, okay? And also on the Aries point with the sun, with the moon and Zeus. Okay? So, when people stormed into the Capitol, they were angry. And somebody or something or some group, I'm going to point to group because of this, really thought or thinks that the way to solve their problem is to bully their way. And it's interesting, it's the 6th house in DC, and it was like in the middle of a work day. It was in the middle of a work situation. Okay? It's just amazing. Now, we can see this better on a dial, but I do want to talk about it here anyway. 19 degrees tells you, and this is 29 degrees, okay? Just a little dab there. That's our midheaven. That 19 degrees is still an aspect here, okay? That 19 degrees is justice. And I do believe justice will accompany this situation. And I do believe that justice, because of where it's situated, is going to play out real well. And I'll show you this on a dial with that moon Zeus. Because the people, it's not just the angry people that were there in the mob. What they did angered other people, like me. And the idea of it very startling, very shocking, but how about that for astrology? Just bam. I mean, it's just amazing. So, our capital gets breached. And they've been encouraged to do it. And the midheaven stands for an authority. And the highest authority is the president. God, the charts are so accurate. So accurate. Okay? We know that there's a lot going on. We know there'll be justice. And we don't know the justice either right away, because justice and Calypso are also running rather close. Remember, this is going to work every way it can, just like Zeus does. So the chart, and I'm going to move to the dial in a minute, the chart really points a picture. This is the event itself, okay, because what's happening at the ascendant. And the fact that it happened in the background. It didn't really, but it did. It's interesting when you look at that. And you look at the organization of the people, but they did it on a social platform. We, Neptune, and squaring the nodes, like there and there, okay. Neptune and square of those nodes is really interesting too, because there's a disillusion, and this is a crowd of people. This is an association, 11th house, a group of people. And the square, where there seems to be a lack of clarity or a lack of reality, seems to be in the area of what is valued. And how do I put this? The lack of empathy or compassion for those that are less fortunate. It's really heavy in a way. I mean, I can't think of anybody in any situation who wouldn't have compassion for their neighbor. But yet, I can say that, there are those, and thankfully they're not everybody, that I think are motivated by darker forces. And they do have things like chaos and destroying things on their mind. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about the chart before I leave it, okay, is when you look at the angles and what they're ruled by, it's 19 degrees 13 Taurus and 19 degrees 13 Scorpio. And that is Venus, money, 8th house, shared resources, my money, okay? There is a lot of entitlement in that whole philosophy. And so that is very much, you know, speaking to that. It's far enough away from Venus not to play a role, but it's not far enough away from Hebe. And Hebe is like you're enabling. You're enabling. And one of the things that concerns me is that a bunch of people have been manipulated into enabling something that they don't really fully comprehend that does relate to money. Oh, yeah. But they were used, if you will, in a way. Now, the lack of clarity has, and I'll see this again on the dial, has a close enough proximity to what are people listening to. And that directly speaks to the Poseidon. What are you feeding into? And by the way, and I was looking for this, destruction. Okay, so these are an aspect, but this is speaking out in a way to excite people to destruction. I mean, how many ways do we need to see this in one astrology chart to know that on this day, this breach of the Capitol was going to happen because of a communication factor? It's quite amazing. Let me go, taking some time here, let me go and let's switch this to the dial. I'm not going to add as much to the dial, but I want to show you on the dial. Well, first of all, before I start jumping to pen, that this Juno is coming with an Astrea. This will not be over, I'm afraid, anytime soon. This will be months. We have a Pluto return to go through. And that is a fight for the soul of the country. That's literal. It's questioning what we value. And this struggle is something that's been underlying in our culture as Americans. I'm going to say since, what do they call that? After the Civil War, when they started pulling everything back together. Reconstruction. It's so interesting. We're still playing with some of those concepts, but we really, really are. And it's interesting because I think it's going to lead to a lot of healing. And I do want to say that. Because of the Jupiter-Saturn, it will be a lot of work. But because of Jupiter being where it is, let me go back to that, because I may have, again, when you do this more than once, Jupiter is in the 10th house, but Jupiter is the ruler of the 9th house, where the sun is, and Pluto in particular, which is most important to talk about, and Mercury. And our thoughts have been political, not by our own choosing, Volcanus, but we'll get to that. So we have this heavy, but what's happened is that, like a pimple, the pressure has caused this to rise up. And it has caused a real issue in terms of this different ideology, if you will. So let's jump back. Okay, so again, I love looking at this in astrology. It's like you're reading a book, and the book is telling you this is what's going on. The healing is just apparent by the stability of our Jupiter, the goodwill, the compassion, and which is what Americans are also noted for. And the Jupiter is also a healing factor in and of itself. Okay. All right. So now I kind of wanted to, I know I kind of went through a lot of that, but I wanted you to see it adding in the asteroids. Like, you know, Tiffany becomes a part of it. Justice becomes a part of it. The fact that it's about someone going on their own, doing things on their own. It's about destruction. Exciting people to destruction. And that will be what's to blame. Well, you can tell they don't use astrology anymore. So again, you know, I'm sorry to have gone through that twice, but I kind of, that was a synopsis of me going through it earlier. So we're talking about selection and rejection. And here isn't this a funny thing? Pallas is our politicians. It's an enabling asteroid as well as a serving asteroid. But they also tell you everything you want to hear. It's a marker. When we, as astrologers, work with charts, you often look for markers. I have markers that say I do astrology. There are markers that tell you that politicians are politicians. It's again, wonderful study, something well worth looking at. So here, our 9 degrees is still in the midheaven line, okay? So we're looking at 19 degrees Tiffany all the way to Pallas. You know, justice for politicians, justice regarding decisions of politicians, justice regarding selection rejection process, the fact that somebody did not do as well. Boy, I could get so lost in these charts. Now, as we look at this, okay, and again, I want to flip to our dial where I keep going backwards, so I jump all over the place. But I wanted you to see this too. Zeus, that isn't going away. Astrea is an asteroid that there's no resolution, at least not at this point. And there really isn't. It is organizations, okay, of like mind. And it isn't interesting that the president said he loved these people, okay? I mean, seriously, does it get better than this? Look at this. He loves these people, okay? Now, this is not bringing up as many pictures. You can see that I think the health crisis did lead us here, the social distancing. And by the way, there was none. If you watched, there was none. Now, where I want to start with this thing, is I want to start, let me see, 2230, here we go. At the Aries point, which here we have Zeus, and if I go by planet, here we go, and just a hair, there it is, there's the moon. So you get the Zeus and the moon, okay, like right next to each other, and it's, again, your propaganda about money and what they're telling these people about money, and it talks about a future, a midheaven authority. Okay, it's also about an authority, okay, and the future of that authority figure, and it's also about the anger of an authority figure. Okay, that's why these people are upset and angry, and okay, the other factor over here, and this is where I got into some really cool stuff. I talked briefly about listening, Okay? Well, this is paying to people. It doesn't have a lot to do with anything, except for it's going to start making a lot of midpoints to what people are listening to. All right? But if you look, let's go to here. I believe that is Zeus. Oops. I did it again. I'm going to have to get used to using this. Okay, that is Zeus. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but it is Zeus. So the excitement is not going to go away because it's things that they've heard, okay? But there's partnerships or deals in this. Juno. Okay? Now, remember, I talked a lot about the fact that we don't know everything. We talked about Calypso. Calypso is here, okay? Look at this. This is like somebody is dependent upon the bullying anger as a solution. Oh, wow. This is just incredible. I mean, this is what makes a person love astrology. This is fabulous stuff. It's just, I could get lost in it. It's wonderful. But I think that this really sums up what was going on. Look at this. Chronos Volcanus. This is one of the things I was alluding to. Besides the fact that a lot of things are hidden, and we had Calypso right there and on with Pluto, which is really ominous, by the way. And you get this 12th house, Uranus, Mars, and then you tie it in here with, I mean, it's mind-blowing with this Zeus, with this Hades, Apollon, and so there's many, and it's the Hades, the Chronos, excuse me, Saturn, an authority leaving. It's just amazing to me. Upsetting to the public. It just blows my mind. And see, there is an ascendant there. That is an ascendant. That is the moment. That is what was going on. And it is very close to an Aries point. It is like in the Aries axis. It is not going away. We'll be watching this for, unfortunately, for some time. So the only thing I wanted us to look at really quickly is that. And the reason why is because, I don't know if you can see immediately, but this is the sun, the day. And it is about partners. Here we go again. Partnerships, deals. And it is an authority figure. Okay, so it's, I'm sorry, I got the authority figure. That's what authority figure, Uranus node. It's, you have your partnerships, and not far from there is, yes, that's true. And they oppose one another. Okay, so I'm in astrology they are. Now it's not one-on-one, like you can't see it on the dial as well, but I wanted to see that because of that Hera that we see here. Okay, it is just amazing. Here we go again with Poseidon, contacts to media. And here we go, Poseidon, Neptune. Poseidon node, Poseidon, Neptune. Media, propaganda. What are we hearing or listening to? Wow. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. So let's get back together here. So I just want to say goodbye proper, but wow. I hope that for some of you is sort of eye-opening as to why we use the asteroids, because that was the sole purpose in wanting to do this. Have we seen this before? Yeah, and I'll give you a preface that I will be doing the inauguration chart. It also has a Mars, Uranus right on the ascendant. It's very scary that we will be going through this for a time. So stay safe. Stay out of crowds like that. But, just be mindful. And, and I think we'll all be fine. But I think that we have to know that these little things are going to, these things are going to occur. We're just fortunate that more people didn't die. So, with that said, I'm going to leave you, as I always do, until we meet next time, I wish you only happy readings.